Welcome back right here at the stage of the World Conservation Forum. And I greet you folks following us online. According to my understanding of our next topic, diversity of pollinators, bees, for instance, means diversity in food and agriculture. So the protection and the support of these creatures actually mean not less than the protection and the support of our whole ecosystem, even on global level. So dealing with why bees matter will definitely worth your time, thanks to the Agricultural Officer of Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, Carolina Rizzi Starr, on the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for who is here. And the idea of this presentation today is to talk a bit why bees are important. I think most of us, we know about bees because we like honey, and we always connect bees and honey. But bees, they are much more than just honey, and they play such an important role in everything that we eat. And let's see, because I need to learn how to use that. Okay. So I will present a very short video with some very interesting information about bee. This is a very short video, but gives a bit the importance of bees and other pollinators for food and agriculture. And my presentation will be really focused on this nexus between pollinators, bees, and food and agriculture, and what we eat. I always say that if people like to drink coffee, we should find better ways to protect the bees and the pollinators, because without them, you are not going to have coffee or chocolate or avocado and a lot of things that you use and like to eat. So these are some very important data that you have about bees that we should start to be aware. So 75% of the crops of the food we eat relies on bees and pollinators. So if you don't have the pollination there during the process, we are not going to have the food we want to eat. One very important one that here in Hungary is quite good and people eat a lot is the pumpkin. Without bees during the flower moment, we don't have pumpkins at all. So all this very beautiful decoration that we have now for the autumn and October and November in ever and single house in Hungary, they wouldn't be there without the bees. So just for this very little tiny thing, I think we should start to work more with them. Another problem that we have, the way we produce food today is creating a lot of problems for the bees. Because we are going we are moving towards a monoculture system. So we don't have more biodiversity in the way we produce food. And this is creating a lot of problems for the bees. They cannot have the food they need during the period they need to have. And they cannot survive in this very extensive monoculture fields. So there are a few things that we can start to do in different levels that we are going to talk about. So this is a very nice photo just for us to understand. So this is strawberry. The first strawberry is a strawberry with proper pollination in the process. And the other two are strawberries with no proper pollination. So you can see the difference between them. You don't have a nice fruit, you don't have a quality product that we'd buy. Also because as consumers, we like to buy beautiful fruits. This is something in our mind. And if you don't have the pollination during the process, it's not tasteful and also is not beautiful, so has no value for consumers. But also, the pollinators, they are so more important to just our food. So they have some importance to keep the whole nature working properly. So we have a lot of trees and flowers that are part of this ecosystem that the pollinators are linked to. And this is very important, especially in an environment like this, when you're so connected to nature. If you remove the pollinators from this process, we are starting to break from the beginning all the chain of connections in the ecosystem services. But also, they are very, very vulnerable. And if you start to have pollution, the bees are among the first to die. So when you have contamination in the water, contamination in the air, they start to suffer a lot. So to make sure the bees and the pollinators can be there, you really need to make sure you have the right environment for them. These are just a few very beautiful examples, because when you think about pollinators, and normally the bees are the first that comes to our mind, but we have other. And even small animals, we have bats. All these animals, they play a role doing pollination among different species. Butterflies, bumblebees. So butterflies are really important for us. So it's very important to have space where the butterflies can come. Then we need to understand, and this is a bit more technical, but I will explore a little bit. I don't want to go into a lot of details. But the way we're producing food today in the world is creating a problem for the bees and for the pollinators. But the funny part here is that without the bees, we don't have agriculture. But the way you are doing agriculture, we are threatening the bees. So it's like a cycle that we need to change, and we need to do this fast. The way we are creating these very intensive systems, so the bees cannot be there. And then we use a lot of pesticides. And then we are threatening the bees by the pesticides. And this becomes a cycle. And then we don't have the bees, but we need them for all the ecosystem services that they can deliver. So what is necessary here is a very big shift in the way we are preparing and producing the food, and how we are managing the landscape. And all this connection that you are exploring here with this one with nature and this conservation forum here, we need to give a step further and also connect the way you are producing food and see that producing food is part of nature as well. And another very serious problem that we have is climate change. Climate change is real. Everybody knows that. We don't need to get into this discussion. And we know how bad climate change is for agriculture. But also climate changes create a lot of problems for the bees. One very interesting process that I can share from my experience this year, this summer in Budapest. I didn't have the bees for my pumpkins in Budapest. Because of the hot wave, the heat wave was too intense and for 3 weeks. And it was too hot in the city center for the pollinators to come. And this was the first time in my life that this happened. This year, you remember, the summer was really unbearable for most of us, but it was also unbearable for the bees. So climate change is affecting us more than we realized. And here is this discussion, how we can change the agriculture system, how we can make sure the way we are producing food. But then I start to bring the question, the way you are consuming food, because you are here, most of you are consumers, not producers. How we can make change to that? Normally, as working for FAO, we start at the policy level. We need to develop policies, agriculture policies, conservation policies, all kinds of policies that includes the bees and the pollinators' needs into this process. And as consumers or as citizens, you should start to check your politicians and see what kind of policies they are promoting, and see if all these environmental questions and topics are included in their platform. So this is what we can do. So have initiatives that promote gardens in the city centers or gardens in your neighborhoods. These kind of small things can really be quite effective. So the policy level does not need to be like the global policy level. It can be your neighborhood level, what kind of initiatives you can have. The second point that we can do is to increase awareness with farmers. So give farmers the right tools, the right incentives to monitor, to control, and to understand how the pollinators are happening in their farm. We have a few tools for monitoring. We have a few tools to bring the pollinators. The farmers can change a few practices to have more pollinator-friendly system. So all this is important. And of course, for us in FAO, we try to work a lot at the international level. And we try to do collaboration among countries and see countries with good experiences on pollinators, and then try to transfer knowledge from one country to another. And I think since 2019, we have the World Bee Day. It's 20th of May. So every year we try to have a lot of awareness and activities to bring more information on the importance of bees. I'm not going into a lot of details in this kind of presentation. Normally, I deliver presentations for more a technical audience, and then we try to go into the details, so I will go really fast. But just for you to see that we have a lot of tools, and we have a lot of solutions already to help the pollinators. We don't need to keep creating new information. We just need to apply what we know. One very nice thing that we can see in a few farmers, and here in Hungary, if you go to the countryside, we see a lot, is ways to connect farmers to farmer. So we have like some kind of corridors, and these are really simple, almost zero cost, and can be quite effective, because you create this, it's a kind of a road for the pollinator. So you don't keep them isolated in small plots, and they can move around. This is really important. Another thing is how we can reduce, if not possible, eliminate completely pesticides. And this is really important, not just for the bees, but for everybody. So we have a lot of contamination using a lot of pesticides, but the bees and the pollinators, normally they are really, really sensible about that. And then, of course, you have a lot of ways to manage the farm, manage the crops. And I'm not going to just all these details, but it's really nice to see also a monitoring process at farm level. It's very easy, and the farmers can just collect the data and keep tracking how the pollinators they have, if they are increasing or decreasing from one year to another. At national level is like policies, promote awareness, training, practices that the farmers can do, and give the right incentive to them. Always promote research and data collection. It's really important for us to have more data on pollinators, and try to, as government, engage civil society and private sector. So this is a very important opportunity for the private sector also to change and start to bring more pollinator-friendly practices into the process. And then we have this very interesting for me, because this is part of my work and I really love this global process that we have on bees and pollinators, so how countries can cooperate. And why this is so important? Animals, they don't see borders. They don't stop at the border control and show passports. They just cross. So if countries, they have different policies, you can promote pollinators in one side of the border and create problems for them in the other side of the border. So having common policies and have agreements to protect promote, monitor pollinators is really important. So this level of cooperation among countries is very, very necessary. And also, if you think about more data collection, it's important to have similar methodologies to understand what's happening, because if you collect data in a way and another country in a different way, it's quite different to compare the data. So all this cooperation at global level is really important. So countries can do things similar, can have good results, and can share what's happening with one country to another country. So best case, things that are not working that well. So normally when you think about cooperation, we just think about good things, but we also can share things that are not working and not making the same mistakes. And then should be a video. And that's it. He's going again. Okay, thank you. That's it.